now. We the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Check the scoreboard.
Welcome back to another episode of the Scoreboard USFL coming up once again, and we're getting closer to the completion of the season. Now we've seen a couple of weeks of play, and we do have some teams clearly emerging at the top and at the bottom. So some of the ideas that we had at the start were pretty good. Some of them maybe not so much. We'll get into that when we talk about last week's games. First of all, Smokey, how you doing?
Oh, man. Well, in real life is a different thing than in football. But in the football world, I'm doing great. You know why? Because I got every single one of my predictions correct last week. And you disagreed with me on all but one, which means you only got one prediction correct. Brings the total to 11 for me and 9 for you now.
Did I take the Panthers? Damn, did I really take the Panthers?
Tell you who you picked. Yep, you picked the Panthers. You picked the Generals along with me, and you know what?
I got two right. I got the Stallions and the Generals for sure.
You got the Stallions.
I know I picked the Gamblers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you actually have 10 to my 11.
I would never pick against the Stallions. Best team in the league.
Yeah.
Greatest team in modern USFL history. My Birmingham Stallions. That's my team, by the way. I'm set. I'm decided. They're winning. They start on Alex McGoo again. We're good. We are super good. I'm set on the Stallions.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they'll bring Jamar Smith back in.
They might. I mean, they know that he's a good quarterback. He's held the fort down right when McGoo was hurt.
Good.
Like they could both run. Maybe Jamar Smith a little bit better even. Dynamic offense. I love to see it, and that is my team. Lock it in. He beat Jordan Tamu head on, even though Tamu probably played better, but the Stallions are a better team overall. But let's get into this this week 5 stuff. So you got all 4 of them right. I got 2. You're 1 point ahead, which is maybe not that meaningful yet. We still have half a season to go, including this week, week 5. And starting off with the first game, this one might be a tough one to pick after last week. The Michigan Panthers at the Tampa Bay Bandits.
This really is a tough one because that was a really close game between the Panthers and the Stars. It came right down to the very end, and the Panthers could have easily won this game, and it just so played out the way it did. Shea Patterson was in for the whole game, no Paxton Lynch, because Paxton Lynch is hurt, and Shea Patterson goes and throws 3 interceptions. One thing I do want to point out is that overall, every one of these teams, it seems, is throwing a ton of interceptions. And I don't know if that's just a new league. Quarterbacks are getting used to their receivers, whatever it is. But there is a ton of interceptions outside of one game, which we'll get to a little later. No Lenore. I don't know why he didn't show up in this one, but he wasn't there. I mean, he was there. He had 2 receptions, but he was the number 1 receiver, but not anymore. It seems to be Walker, maybe, who went 3 of 3 for 28 yards and a TD, which is not anything great. Corbin and Patterson rushed for 231 yards. It seems that is the best point of this offense. But yeah, Shea Patterson's not where it's at. On the other hand, Tamu was back to throwing interceptions. He had a week last week where he didn't throw interceptions, and now he went right back to it. At least it was only 1. It's not like 3 in the first week. So
Tamu didn't throw a pick, right? Sorry to interrupt. He did not throw a pick against
against
the Stallions.
Yeah, you're right.
You might be looking at Shea Patterson.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, like 3.
Yeah, actually, you were right. I was looking at the touchdown column instead of the interception column. That's what it was. But anyway, so I guess that's a good trend then. He's 2 weeks in a row without throwing an interception. That's a move in the right direction. He's also the lead rusher for this team over Emmons. Emmons just doesn't seem to be getting it done like he was earlier in the season. Several wide receivers that he's been throwing to. So, like you said, this is a really tough pick because the Panthers looked better than they have all season in a really close loss. I think I'm going to go with the Panthers. I think I'm going to pick the Panthers to beat the Bandits in this game.
It's a tough one because on one hand you mentioned that the Panthers are probably the better team, and that's mainly because I argue Jordan Ta'amu still is probably the superior quarterback, and in a fair matchup you'd want to go with him. He's the leading passer, obviously leading rusher as well. He's that offense. I feel like I say that every single week, but he's the whole offense for Tampa Bay. I thought at the start of the season they had the best offensive line coming, and they're gonna have a great rushing attack. Nothing whatsoever. The quarterback scrambling is over half of their rushing attack at this point in time, and if he's not getting it done through the air as much as he needs to keep that team afloat, they're going to have a tough time. For the Panthers, though, I'm still worried about the quarterback play. That's been the problem the whole time, and no matter who they throw in there. You mentioned Shea Patterson just threw a total of 3 interceptions, and by the way, he wasn't bad on the ground this time. But what does concern me is he had more rushing yards than he had passing yards. They're not getting it done through the air. They're just not getting it done. They haven't been all season, and whenever they did show some success and stayed competitive, and they won that game as well. They were running the ball, and that was where that success came from. Now, they're not able to do that consistently enough to win, like a team, for example, like the Stallions is able to at the moment. And with that, this might be ill-advised because the Panthers actually showed some life in back-to-back weeks now, but I'll go with Jordan Ta'amu. I'm trusting the quarterback for Tampa Bay, for two teams that are not very good, that are slightly below average, even maybe. I'll take the better quarterback to make less mistakes, because I think if Patterson gives the ball away 3+ times, I think Jordan Ta'amu is going to come away with at least 2 touchdowns on all those possessions, and I think that's probably already going to be enough, because Philadelphia didn't play great defense against the Panthers. Tampa Bay did do decently well. They held Stallions to 16 points. They can hold the Panthers to 10 or less. So if that happens, I'm going to say Jordan Ta'amu gets it done, and the Bandits go on to win. So that's the first disagreement of the week right away, which I'm happy I got that one. This might be my chance to make up the point. Hopefully,
it may be.
Jordan Ta'amu doesn't let me down. The New Orleans Breakers at the New Jersey Generals.
Yeah, Kyle Sloter, once again, is not setting the world on fire. He had that 1 week where he looked like the best quarterback in the league, and now 2 weeks in a row he has kind of disappointed. Now, it wasn't a horrible game. They did get the win. They held on to the lead and was able to pull it out at the very end. But Kyle Sloter is not impressing at all. I'll tell you who is impressing. Ellis. Ellis is probably the best running back in this league, in my opinion. You watch this guy play, he is the focal point of that offense. I mean, Kyle Sloter is throwing. He's throwing downfield. He took a lot of chances in that game, and some of them came back to haunt him in the end. He also threw 3 interceptions, and I am absolutely correct about that one. 397 yards, though, is nothing to shake your head at. So he's taking chances. They're just not all paying off. Taylor, Adams, Cannella, and Poindexter all out there. And Will Likely, who was also playing on the defense at one point for some reason. I guess there's probably quite a few of these guys that are pulling double duty at some point. But yeah, just a litany of receivers and a lot of chances taken, but I think if they stick with Ellis, they're going to do well. But the Generals on the other hand are really good in my opinion. Perez and Johnson are probably combined to make the most accurate quarterback in this league. They split almost exactly 50-50, went 20 for 24 combined. It's not much of a run game on this, so all of their snaps are mostly passing the ball. Turpin, Moore, and even Victor. A lot of their passes are actually going to the running back. So you look for a lot of short throws and slants and passes to the outside, but they're getting the job done. So I am going to stick with the Generals to continue to win here, and they will end up being 4-1, and the Breakers will fall to 3-2.
All right. Well, I do agree generally with what you said about those teams, especially talking about the Generals. And I know you love Luis Perez. He might be one of your favorite players.
Yes.
And I do agree with that. They had a good offensive performance, but here's my big counterpoint: is they played the Maulers, and they probably had the closest game we could have expected of them. Like, we expected a bigger blowout there. Pittsburgh, for the record, got nothing done at all. No ground game whatsoever. Lost time of possession by a ton. Kyle Oleta just being his fairly unimpressive self, completing 50% under 50% of his passes. Not a lot of offense going for Pittsburgh, so it wasn't necessarily the hardest task. This was not like a shootout. If you're different spot, you're playing a team like the Stallions or like the Breakers, as a matter of fact, that can produce major offense. It's gonna be a different story, because you can say about Kyle Sloter what you want. He 3 interceptions. Okay, there are mistakes there, but he throws it downfield. They were chucking it downfield all day. He's averaging almost a first down per pass. At least he did against the Houston Gamblers, which is no pushover team, by the way, even though their record is not looking as good. They can make explosive plays with the offense. You rattled through that list of NFL caliber receiver, including Sean Poindexter. I like a lot in as a deep threat. So to me, this is not as clear as you say there. I know you're looking at the quarterbacks, and you're probably right saying that the Generals have a better quarterback room. Luis Perez you prefer. That's fair. I'll go with the Breakers to win this game, though. I think when it comes down to offense versus offense, and this, I expect this to be a high-scoring game, by the way, because both these teams have a lot of offensive potential, and their weaknesses tend to be on defense. I think just the production that's coming out of the New Orleans Breakers is probably going to be too much. And I'm not sure if the Generals will be able to keep up with that, especially looking at the air attack. This could be a game where both teams score close to or over 30 points. And if Kyle Sloter slings it, he turns off those interceptions, just gets a little bit more accurate, a little bit more careful maybe. He was a bit reckless at times, which has always been his problem. But when he gets going, and he delivers it downfield. I think the Breakers are on track to potentially score a lot of points. I think this offense, to me, it reminds me a little bit of the Kansas City Chiefs. You look at the NFL. Of course, no Patrick Mahomes, no Tyreek Hill, no Travis Kelce. But systematically, the way that they scheme the vertical concepts downfield, and we know Kyle Sloter is able to deliver downfield. It's just a matter of being consistent. So I like the team to have a lot of potential upside, and since the Generals, quote-unquote, only played Pittsburgh, it was not a very impressive win to me, given the circumstances. So I will disagree with you again. I'll take the Breakers. So there we go. We have two disagreements already. I wonder if we will have another one. I kind of doubt it, though. This next one, we have the Stallions and the Stars. Even though, actually, this is your Stars. You might have to
It is.
back up your
It really
team.
is. But like I said, it was a close win that they pulled out at the very end, or were able to hang on to at the very end, against the Panthers. So it's not an exciting win. It is Case Cookus in there with Brian Scott being out, and I wish Brian Scott was back. That would make this much more interesting. Mago is back, though. I mean, I know you're happy about that. Personally, I would have stuck with Jamar Smith, to tell you the truth. The offense seemed to be more explosive with Jamar Smith in there because of the run aspect. But then again, we also saw Alex Mago take off and run 9 times in this game. So I guess they're kind of sticking with the game plan. I just think Jamar Smith may be a little bit better. But Marble wasn't having any luck in the run game. That's probably why you saw the quarterback take off so many times. Scooby Wright is still a star. Victor Bolden, still. Marlon Williams, the tight end, did not show up in this one. He was the star last week, and he didn't show up so much in this game. But Bolden was holding it down. We know how good Victor Bolden is. On the other hand, Case Cookus is accurate, like I said. I just wish it was Brian Scott. Paul Terry filling in for Holland was not nearly as good as Holland. Like I said, Ellis is probably the best running back in this league right now. It's probably because Holland is not playing, and he could give him a run if they were. Overton, Gray, Howard all had great games. Makes it tough, though. I'm going to have to go with the Stallions. I want to go with the Stars. I'm hoping the Stars win. but I have to go with the Stallions.
I was really hoping that you would find a way to talk yourself into picking the Stars, because that's your team after all, right? You kind of had to. I would have got.
I still want to win though.
Yeah, I can imagine. You kind of want both. You want to win the prediction, but you also want your team to win.
Yes.
Well, there's no conflict for me. It's all pointing one direction. I'll take the Stallions. I mean, they're undefeated. Why would I not take them? They're starting quarterbacks back, and I don't see it as much as an issue or a dilemma as maybe you are between Alex Magoo and Jamar Chase. I'm seeing that as a synergistic like complement to each other, because you have two guys who can just come in and do it. And they do play a lot of the same way. Jamar Smith is probably a bit faster, probably a bit better of a runner. But Alex Magoo scored the only offensive touchdown with his feet in this game for the Stallions. And he wasn't bad through the air either. Coming back off of an injury, he did fine. Didn't put the world on fire, but it was good enough to beat I would say the respectable Bandits. So to me, there's no doubt Victor Bolden's probably my favorite player in the league. He probably was my favorite player coming into the league already, because I remember his explosiveness from the NFL. He was a kick returner for the Niners. And now he's getting to play in that wide receiver 2 role, or wide receiver 1 role. The X or Z receiver, which suits him very naturally. Explosive offense with a high potential, kind of like the Breakers, and that's probably at the moment my favorite matchup is Stallions Breakers. Probably what I'm envisioning as being the funnest game to watch. I'll take the Stallions to win this one. I have absolutely no reason not to. Do you know how the quarterback situation is going to be for Philadelphia? Is there any clear indication yet going into the week?
No, I haven't seen yet. I'm hoping it's Brian Scott, but right now I'm expecting Case Cookus.
All right, so we don't know for sure.
No, I don't. I haven't seen anything yet.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. No, I will absolutely stick. I'm gonna stick with my Stallions. No reason not to. They win. They go 5-0. And last but not least, well, kind of least, we have the Pittsburgh Maulers at the Houston Gamblers.
Poor Pittsburgh Maulers. I think they're already mathematically eliminated from the playoffs.
Probably, yeah. There's 10 weeks. Like they could 6-4 is best they could do.
Yeah. And it doesn't look like that's just going to pick up and take off for them. So they're probably going to go 5 at the end of this week. Laletta is still bad. Went 15 for 32. He's not even completing half of his passes at this point. Man, and there was some hope for Laletta coming into this. It doesn't look good, though. Between London and Groshek out there's not much of a run game going on. Probably because they're always behind and they need to throw downfield. And you don't run the ball when you're playing from behind. That's just how it is. Walker's productive with the catchable targets that he gets, but half of his targets are not catchable, it seems. The Gamblers, though, on the other hand, they are a good team. I think probably one of the best defenses in this league. They seem to get the most. I haven't looked up the stats or anything, but just from watching their games, it seems that they get more interceptions than any other defense in this league. I'd have to look at the stats, though. Clayton Thorson, 15 for 26. That's not great. 1 touchdown. But better than Kyle Laletta, no doubt. No run game on this team either. Maybe it's just the way of the USFL. Like, just pass, and more pass. Outside of the Breakers who like to run the ball, and
Houston has done it successfully at some parts. Yeah, Stars do.
Yeah, but not last week whatsoever, in my opinion. Zuber and Ward and company are out there. They're the ones catching it. I don't think there's much else to say about this. I'm going to go with the Gamblers.
It's the Gamblers are sitting at 1-3, and I think they're probably, to me, they're still a top half team, which is kind of curious because they're a second worst record in the league, but they've had a lot of tough losses. They've played a tough schedule. Of course, everyone's played everyone at some point, but they've had a tough schedule. They've had close losses. Remember, they could have easily been 3-0. We talked about it last week. The first game opening night, they played the Stallions, came down to the wire. And by the way, they ran all over the Stallions, which had me concerned. And I saw a lot of potential in the rushing attack for Houston. Last week against New Orleans, absolutely nothing whatsoever happened. Did not get it done at all. 20 yards, 28 yards of total rushing offense is completely pathetic. That might be the lowest I've seen But they didn't. I mean, they kind of tried at the start. They kind of gave it up pretty quickly because the running backs didn't get much done, and then through the air didn't manage to catch up to that explosive offense, which outgained them, I think, by like 3 times the yards. So the end result is much closer than we think, which is thanks to all those interceptions that the defense managed to produce. That being said, for the Maulers, there's not a lot of positives really. It's just a lot of letdowns. I thought this team had more potential. You saw some NFL veterans on the offensive line. I thought they could run the ball. Kyle Lauletta, I thought, could be a top 3 quarterback in the league. I had big hopes for the receivers, Brandon Mack, Trey Walker. Trey Walker's been showing up as of recently. I thought they had a potential, like talent-wise, to really show up. Nothing so far, nothing at all. And it's kind of the inverse logic to why I picked the Stallions. They're undefeated. There's no reason to pick against them. The Maulers haven't shown me that they can win at all. Especially that game against the Panthers really stunk. And I think the Gamblers are probably a better team than their record says. The Maulers, unfortunately, they are the team their record says. They've not won a game, and they probably shouldn't have won a game. Houston could easily flip that record around, be 3-1, and no one would bat an eye. Be completely understandable. I'll take the Gamblers, absolutely, to win the game and to hopefully reestablish the run game is really what I want to see from them, because that's their key to success. The Generals showed it against Pittsburgh. They ran the ball well. Everybody ran the ball well so far against Pittsburgh. I want him to get back to that because Clayton Thorson's not going to set the world on fire by himself. He's not that kind of quarterback necessarily, but he can operate in a functioning system. And the reason that, by the way, you said a lot of teams struggle with the run. There's a very strong tendency the teams that struggle with the run are the teams without running quarterbacks. If you look at Jordan Tam, or you look at Jamar Smith, Alex McGrew, for example, the teams with mobile quarterbacks have a much easier time. And you've mentioned this before as well. It's a simple to execute offense, but a very hard to defend offense on the defensive side, which is why it lends itself so well to something like this, like a very new league, or the famous option offense that we see from the armed forces schools a lot. Is because it's simple to execute, simple to learn. It's difficult to defend for a defensive unit that doesn't have a lot of chemistry, doesn't have a lot of experience, and all these teams naturally they got together a couple months ago. A lot of these guys are young. They came from college. They didn't have a lot of time to prepare. And having that running element of a quarterback makes a running offense exponentially harder, because you already have run fits all over the place. You already have jobs for everyone. Now, if you have a dedicated read guy and a spy potentially on a quarterback, you might have 9 people in a run fit on any given play on a defense against like a 6-man front line. That's a lot to handle, and that's why those offenses tend to work out really, really well. So far, we've seen a great example of that, and it does work in college as well, which we've seen being established for a while. It falls off when we get to the NFL level because things become different and people understand the game better, but in this league, it works well. I think there's some teams that have a recipe of doing that well, including, for example, the Stallions, and that is paying off in the record. So to me, in this one, Pittsburgh kind of went off on a tangent. They're not really relating to Pittsburgh anymore, but yeah, they haven't won any game so far. Gamblers are better than their record. I'll take them 100%. So we disagree on 2, and we agree on the final 2.
Yeah, and you said something there. I've always wondered that, why the military schools in particular love to go with that triple option offense. Easy for me to say. I've always wondered if it's because they can't recruit dynamic passers, is why they are so stuck to that. It seems that all the military schools do it. Every now and then you'll see it. You see it filter over when one of those coaches make their way to a Georgia Tech or something, like we saw with Paul Johnson for quite a few years. Couldn't win anything in the ACC. With that, he did put some over. Like sometimes, like you said, defenses have a hard time defending it. So he would every now and then get one over on a big school, but you typically see it mostly at military schools. And
it is a tradition there. I honestly, I'd be lying if I said I knew exactly what it is. I could make some guesses, but it seems to be mostly a thing of like it's a tradition at this point, and as long as it works out, like why change it? I don't know if there's any like historians who know any specific backstory on that, but that's where we see it established a lot. And that, like you said, often goes to show that it's simplistic, but it can be deadly at a lot of low levels. I mean, you see it in high school as well. Like at the high school level,
yeah, for sure.
that is the core of so many offenses. How many actual pro style offenses do we get to see in high school football? Like 2 or 3, maybe in the top teams. You look at teams like IMG, that's full of NFL coaches, sure.
Yeah.
But they're basically treated like a high-end college team already. Like they're run like Alabama. You don't get that a lot. So usually, and then you have kids that are, by the way, that they are still in school full time, and for military academy goes the same way. They have a lot of other stuff to do. A professional football player, between now and training camp, NFL training camp, they can do nothing but sit and look at the playbook and study the intricacies of like every single route and every single step they're taking, every single second of timing, every single foot position. You can't do that if you're in school or you're in military academy or whatever, and you have other stuff to take care of, and you might have to work on the side to make money. So a lot easier to introduce there for people who don't have enough time as professionals to invest in studying the intricacies of a pro style sort of West Coast inspired playbook. It's just a lot more difficult. So I think that's a big part of it. And that lends itself well to these teams, even though they're professional teams. They're kind of ran like low budget college programs. That's just how it is. That's the first season, and they just got drafted together out of nowhere. And they mostly come from low budget college programs as well.
Yeah.
So the players are used to that kind of offense.
Half the teams have college coaches, and half of them have former pro coaches.
Yep, it's very much a collegiate level, but that's why it's working, and it doesn't make it necessarily bad, right? We've seen it work in the NFL. It's still interesting to watch and to see. I think that is a reason though why that tends to work more than it does in the NFL. In the NFL, it can work whenever you get this sort of special physical specimen of a quarterback in the league. It works for a bit, but it doesn't work very long. Because teams adjust to it, and they have all season to adjust to it and figure out every small bit of it. You see Cam Newton, Carson Wentz to a lesser degree, but Kaepernick, and even now Lamar Jackson. It works for a bit, but that's like when people notice that's what you do, they'll take it away. And then it comes down to, can you overcome that? Maybe we'll see that development as well in the USFL in a year or two, if the league survives and keeps flourishing. That'll happen. Better coaches will get attracted to the league, and more high caliber college talent will get attracted to the league. Chance to make money before being eligible for the NFL draft. Maybe we'll see that happening as well, and we'll filter the Lamar Jackson, the Russell Wilsons from your RG3s, your Kaepernicks, that when that run element gets taken away, they actually develop as quarterbacks and step up into the role as a passer and a proper dual threat rather than a heavy run tendency quarterback. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll finish this season first and see what happens. So after this week, we'll be halfway through. Like I mentioned, we got 10 weeks coming up. Should be a good one. I'm going to gain the lead again this week because I'm going to get 4 to your 2 points. I think we established that. If you have any ideas or any picks or something that you strongly disagree with what we picked, I mean, I just strongly disagree with the general's pick, but that's besides the point. If you have anything in the comments, let us know. And if you know anything about the history of the triple option or whatever, what's the historical background there, I would love to learn that. As for now, Smokey, do you have anything to add for this week?
No, I think that's it this week.
All right, then thank you everybody for watching. We're going to see you in the next one.
Deuces.
Check the scoreboard.